to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Freshlight, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Starting on a fantastic note this beautiful morning, the 16th day in the month of May 2023, the Tuesday edition of Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. And why I said we're starting on a great note this morning, I'm sure that you would have seen the fantastic and great world record being broken by Nigeria recently by Hilda Bassi. Longest cooking hour by individual, and definitely it is sending different messages to Nigerians and even people outside the world that determination, when you're determined and when you put your heart to whatever you want to do, definitely you can achieve that. And that is on that note, we will bring you Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio this beautiful Tuesday morning. And let me officially apologize for not bringing to your listening pleasure Freshlight and Periscope yesterday. Just we are definitely putting all things together to give you great content right here on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Welcome to fresh episode of Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, where we take you through different stories in our different newspapers this morning to keep you abreast of happenings around you. My name is MODUPE AKINYOSOYE, and this morning I have a couple of newspapers with me. I have the Punch newspaper, I have the Daily Trust newspaper, I have the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, I have the Vanguard, and I also have the Nation newspaper. And of course, while you are preparing to go to work or you are already at work, let's just take you through and ease you the stress of flipping through your newspapers. We'll do that for you and keep you abreast this morning. We'll start with the Nation newspaper, and let's see what stories that is surfacing in the front page of the Nation newspaper this beautiful morning. And on the Nation newspaper, you see this headline: IG, that Inspector General of Police, wants subversive element against plot to derail May 29. That's the incoming inauguration of the next administration, with a rider revealing that political actors conspiring to stop inauguration of President-elect Tinubu and governors. You get the rest of that in the Nation newspaper. Also from the Nation newspaper, you see the headline: Life outside power is challenging Igbinedion Saraketel outgoing governors. Page 5 of the Nation newspaper captures that very story. Away from that, we also have assault on inspector detained. Sheon Kuti may undergo drug test. You also get that on page 7 in the Nation newspaper. NBS puts April inflation rate at 22.22%. Page 25 captures the business story of that very headline. Also from the front page of the Nation newspaper, 13 trillion naira spent on subsidy in 16 years, says federal government, with a rider Tinubu to get guide from Transition Council. You also get that from the Nation newspaper. Also, United States, we've sanctioned those who undermined elections. That story you see also in the Nation newspaper. CBN decries telecoms operations, banks face off over USSD. Page 23 captures the story. And also, federal government approves 37 new private universities. Page 4 captures that very story. Nigerian spends $1.2 billion on medical tourism yearly, says minister. The story also been captured in the Nation newspaper. Going through one or two stories from the Nation newspaper this morning. I will start with a warning from the Inspector General of Police towards the May 29 inauguration. IJ wants subversive elements against plot to derail May 29 inauguration. There is an ongoing plot to derail the May 29 transfer of power. Inspector General of Police Usman Al-Kali Baba alerted the nation yesterday, and those behind the plot are political actors and subversive elements and their foot soldiers, the police chief said at a news conference in Abuja. He vowed that by working in collaboration with other security and intelligence agencies, such plots will be crushed. And the warning is coming on the heels of a previous one by the Defense Headquarters and the Department of State Services, DSS. Inspector General wants subversive elements against plot to derail May 29. The Nation newspaper captures that very story. And also from the Nation newspaper, you see federal government approves 37 new private universities. The federal government yesterday approved 37 new private universities, and the approval was announced at an extraordinary Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by Vice President AKINYOSOYE at the Presidential Villa. FEC, the FEC, entertained about 40 memoranda from various ministries, departments, and agencies, including the approval for the establishment of 37 private universities. And according to the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, one of the institutions approved is an online university. He said the newly approved universities have surged the number of private universities in the country to 72. From the Nation, federal government approves 37 new private universities. And of course, this very cheering story that happened during the weekend over to this new week. Hilda Basi completes 100 hours cookathon. Nigerian chef Hilda Basi set a new world record of 100 hours cookathon, making her the new record holder. The latest Guinness Book record holder broke the record of 87 hours, 45 minutes and 00 seconds set by chef Lata Tandon in Rewa, India in 2019. And Hilda was initially scheduled to stop at 4 p.m. Nigerian time, culminating into her former 96-hour target, but stopped at 8 p.m. after an extension of 4 hours. And supportive Nigerians at the cookathon competition taking place at the Garden in Lekki saw her through the event, which commenced on Thursday, May 11, 2023. Hilda Basi completes 100 hours cookathon. The rest of that in the Nation, and I'm sure it's also been captured in all newspapers we have in the country. And of course, congratulations once again to Hilda Basi, a Nigerian that broke a recent record on the longest cooking hour. And of course, away from the Nation newspaper, let's see different headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. We have NAS presiding officers, North Central governors fault APC zoning template. With a rider, Yari adamant as more senators pledge support. Page 15 and page 16 of the Nigerian Tribune captures that very story. Higher food prices push Nigeria's inflation to 22.22%. This is resurfacing in the front page of Nigerian Tribune, and page 6 captures the very story. Okonjo-Iweala wants governors-elect against debt acquisition. Page 4 captures that very story. Jubilation as Hilda Basi ends marathon cooking, set 100-hour record with riders fit to be reviewed. Not yet official Guinness World Record. Page 5 captures the story. 228 buildings, 336 families affected by rainfall in Lagos. NEMA revealing that from the Nigerian Tribune on page 27. Also on page 27, but the headline in the front page, suspected terrorist blows up self to evade arrest in Kaduna. That's from the Metro page. Resident doctors begin warning strike. Page 3 adds that very story to the headline. Court bars NYC from further disclaiming Enugu governor-elect certificate. That's also on page 16. Police quiz Seun Kuti over assault on police officer. Case transferred to SCID. Page 26 captures that very story. On 2023 polls, the United States imposes visa restrictions on election violators. Page 16 has that very story. IGP wants president plotting to scuttle inauguration of new government. This is also surfacing in the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, and page 2 captures that story. Quickly going through a different story from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper to just take you through one or two couple of stories right here. And we start with a warning from Okonjo-Iweala, the World Trade Organization chairman. Okonjo-Iweala warns incoming governors against debt acquisition. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Monday warned incoming state governors against acquisition of debt. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala gave the charge in Abuja during the opening of the 2023 induction for re-elected and elected governors with the theme Governing for Impact, Building Subnational Governance, organized by the Nigerian Governors Forum. And according to Debt Management Office in its fourth quarter report of 2022 fiscal year, Nigeria's total domestic debt stock was 27.55 trillion naira, while external debt stock was 18.70 trillion naira. That's 41.69 billion United States dollar. The rest of that from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Okonjo-Iweala warns incoming governors against debt acquisition. Away from that, we also have from the Tribune newspaper from the Metro page, and specifically page 27. Bandits blow self in Kaduna to evade arrest. Suspected bandit has reportedly blown himself up with an improvised explosive device in Kaduna in order to evade arrest. It was gathered that the incident occurred on Monday at Keke, a suburb of Kaduna metropolis. And findings by Nigerian Tribune revealed that the victim had been on the watch list of the security agencies, and they were tracking his movement until they trailed him to Keke, where he had been hiding. And according to a source, on Monday, a combined team of soldiers, policemen, and officials of Department of State Security Services stormed his hideout, purportedly to arrest him. Bandit blow self in Kaduna to evade arrest. The rest of that from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Away from that, also from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Resident doctors to begin warning strike on Wednesday. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, has declared a 5-day warning strike following the failure of the federal government to meet its demands. The decision was reached after its 6.5 hours extraordinary National Executive Council meeting held virtually on Monday. The resident doctors said the strike will commence at exactly 8 a.m. on Wednesday, May 17, that's tomorrow, until Monday, May 22 at 8 a.m. And Tribune reports that NAD had on April 29, 2023 issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to meet its demands or face industrial action. Resident doctors to begin warning strike Wednesday. Nigerian Tribune captures that very story. And also we have federal government applauds spirited efforts of Nigerian embassy in Sudan, with a rider designates Port Sudan as official convergent point for willing Nigerians. Federal government on Monday showered encomium on the officials of the Nigerian embassy in Sudan following the successful evacuation of 2,518 Nigerians, including students, who constituted 95% of the returnees back into this country from war-torn Sudan. In a remarkable feat, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Dr. Nasir Sani Gwazo, during a media briefing held in Abuja, announced the official closure of the situation room set up to ensure the safe return of all willing Nigerians from Sudan. And Dr. Sani Gwazo disclosed that the situation room successfully accomplished its goal of ensuring the safe return of 2,518 Nigerians and reuniting them with their families in Nigeria. Federal government applauds spirited efforts of Nigerian embassy in Sudan, from Nigerian Tribune. Away from Nigerian Tribune, let's see the Daily Trust newspaper and go through the headlines in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. From the front page, you see NNPC to resume oil search in Lake Chad next week, says Kiari, and you get that very story on page 4 in the Daily Trust. Buhari to governors-elect deliver on campaign promises or be voted out. You also get that story on page 12 in the Daily Trust. Resident doctors to begin 5-day warning strike tomorrow. That's also surfacing in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Also, we have this: inflation hits 22.2% in April despite monetary tightening. You also get that story from The Nation, and precisely on page 23 in the Daily Trust newspaper. Northwest deserves Senate presidency. That's also in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And taking a couple of stories from the Daily Trust newspaper, we have this one right here saying, deliver on your promises or be voted out, Buhari tells governors. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the newly elected and returning governors to deliver on their campaign promises or get ready to be voted out in the next elections. Buhari spoke on Monday during the induction of the Nigerian Governors Forum organized ahead of the May 29 inauguration. And a correspondent of the newspaper reports that the organizers said the event, which kicked off at the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja on Monday, is aimed at equipping the new governors to develop the essential skills for democratic governance and implementation of pre-election blueprint. Deliver on your promises or be voted out, Buhari tells governor, and Daily Trust newspaper captures that very story. Away from that, we also have the story from the stable of the National Youth Service Corps. NYC shouldn't be compulsory, says Jega. Professor Atari Jega, former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has recommended that a one-year National Youth Service scheme, NYC, should not be made mandatory. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the NYC 50th anniversary celebration in Abuja on Monday, he said if any activity should be mandatory, then it should be only with the military. He said the Youth Service Corps ought to be voluntary for youth with proper qualifications and ICGPAs, and according to him, the best graduates who indicate interest should be selected for the exercise, and adequate provisions should be made, such as funding and facilities to enable them function well during service program. NYC shouldn't be compulsory, says Jega from the Daily Trust newspaper. And away from the Daily Trust newspaper, we also have an inauguration story from the Daily Trust. Oshibajo chairs extraordinary cabinet meeting. Vice President Yemi Oshibajo is currently chairing an extraordinary Federal Executive Council meeting at the Council Chamber of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. And Daily Trust reports that not less than 37 memoranda from various ministries, departments, and agencies are to be considered at the meeting. Traditional FEC is also expected to hold on Wednesday, May 17 and 24, 2023, ahead of the inauguration of the President-elect Asiwaju Bola Tinubu on May 29. From the Daily Trust, on inauguration, Oshibajo chairs extraordinary cabinet meeting. You get the rest of that also from the belly of the Daily Trust. So quickly taking this on the Sudan war from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Okay, we have federal government releases guidelines for transfer of students to Egyptian university. The federal government has released a guide for students schooling in Sudanese universities who were evacuated as a result of the ongoing conflict in the country to continue their studies in Egypt. In the public announcement released on Sunday by the Nigerian Embassy in Cairo, the federal government said it was in collaboration with the Central Administration for International Students under the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research to facilitate the transfer process. And sequel to the ongoing crisis in Sudan, coupled with requests received from parents and students for transfer to Egyptian universities, the embassy, in collaboration with Central Administration for International Students under the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, is making efforts to facilitate the transfer process of Nigerian students from Sudanese universities to Egyptian universities. Sudan war. Federal government releases guidelines for transfer of students to Egyptian universities. The rest of our story in the Daily Trust newspaper. We get back to more of the stories in our different newspapers this morning after this commercial break. So stay with us on Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. We'll be right back.
Master abroad. To those in the traveling aid, that is not our case. Our Taos travel successfully without stress. Help you process that to anywhere in the world. Do you want permanent residential visa, visiting tourism visa, student visa to Europe, America, Asia, Africa? It's no big deal to us at Taos Travels and Tour. Our year-ins and expertise. Let's process and secure visa for you to UK, USA, and Canada within a twinkle of Hajj and Umrah services. What are you waiting for? Consult us at number 9, Taos of Central Street, behind Laroy Hotel, Abiola Way, Abeokuta. 0802 733 090 or 0806 578 060. Stop waste. Taos of Travels and Tour.
Gbogbo aláfẹ́ gba yìí tó fẹ́ wọṣọ yìí ṣógẹ́ta. House of Zion, the name I know when we talk of top quality materials and class. House of Zion wears Egypt and Dubai. Àwọn designer bags lóríṣiríṣi, àwọn ìtẹ̀lẹ̀ bàtà tó jiná tó ṣe, àwọn aago kájọ tó ń ka wákàtí ọjọ́, designer sunglasses, gbogbo nǹkan tóbìnrin àsìkò fi ń gbáfẹ́ lò gbà. Mo débẹ̀ kámi èmi ni ó ra èmi ni ó mú mi ẹlẹ́sìn pàfàlàbíà hijab àti àbáyà lóríṣiríṣi. House of Zion lẹ́ò ti rí gbogbo of Zion wà ní 50 Ọlọ́run ṣògo road adjacent Redeemed Church Agape Parish Ọlọ́run ṣògo Abẹ́òkúta. Lórí Instagram House of Zion 081 65 68 86 18. Zion ilé ìtajà aṣọ àti nǹkan aṣaralóge tí ń gbéni ní.
Thank you so much for staying with us. This is still Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Still going through different stories we have in our newspapers this beautiful morning. And picking up quickly because of the time, the Vanguard newspaper, and let's go through the different headlines that is surfacing, and we can see in the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. On the 10th, NAS leadership crisis, North Central. Governors kick against zoning to meet Tinubu, a National Working Committee. Page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper as that very story. Away from that, we are also seeing this very business headline. Naira devaluation, others pressure inflation rates to 22.22%. Page 19 captures that story. Focus on debt management and others. Okonjo-Iweala urges incoming governors. This is also revealing in the front page. And page 8 captures that story. Federal government kicks against bill to stop migration of doctors with a rider as medical doctors start strike tomorrow. This is also revealing in the front page, and page 8 captures that very story. Away from that, we have a story here: 120 billion naira USSD dispute. Banks, telcos disagree on technical issues. You get that details on page 26 in the Vanguard newspaper. Matawale also revealing from the front page that Buhari should stop study leaves and others. Page 8 also captures that very story. Petrol subsidy costs could be more than 13 trillion naira, federal government admits. And page 9 also admitting the rest of that very story. And also we have allow your successors to work as governors. Saraki, Aliyu others still outgoing governors. Page 9 captures that very story. And United States slams visa ban on unnamed Nigerians undermining democracy. You also get the details on page 9 in the Vanguard newspaper. And on energy, you have Dangote refinery to meet 100% Nigeria's requirement report, revealing that on page 14 in the Vanguard newspaper. And on health, we have an headline: WHO decries global rise in anemia as 571 million women, 269 million children suffer. Page 22 captures the rest of that story. And on sports headline right here in the front page of the Vanguard, you see Tottenham way up move for Iberichi Eze. That's on page 30 in the Vanguard newspaper. And going through different couple of stories in the Vanguard newspaper, you see here United States imposes visa ban on Nigeria's 2023 elections riggers. The United States has imposed visa restrictions on politicians and people who were involved in undermining the just concluded Nigeria's 2023 elections. And according to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, in a statement on Monday, the U.S. said it is committed to supporting Nigeria's aspirations to solidify the democratic process and rule of law. And Blinken, however, did not specify individuals that will be victims of the visa bans. The rest of that in the Vanguard newspaper. United States imposes visa ban on Nigeria's 2023 elections riggers. Away from that, we also have from the business page of the Vanguard, the Naira begins a new week on negative note. The Naira depreciated against the dollar on Monday, exchanging for 464 Naira at the investors and exporters window. The rate represented a decrease of 0.36% when compared to the 462.33 Naira it exchanged at the close of business on May 12. The open indicative rate closed at 463.50 Naira to the dollar on Monday. A spot exchange rate of 467 Naira was used for trading within the day before it settled at 464 Naira. And the spot exchange rate was determined instantly. Nigeria begins a new week on negative Naira, I beg your pardon, begins a new week on negative note. The rest of that from the belly of the Vanguard newspaper. And taking the story from the Gateway State, you see Ogun Tribunal dismisses APP and MPP petitions against Abiodun and APC. The governorship election petition tribunal sitting in Abeokuta, Ogun State on Monday dismissed two petitions filed by two political parties, Action People's Party (APP) and New Nigeria People's Party (NPP), against the re-election of Dapo Abiodun during the March 18 governorship election. The APP had filed its petition challenging the return of Abiodun as the governor-elect in the Ogun State governorship election held on 18th March 2023, and it, however, deposed in its application for discontinuation moved that upon the re-evaluation of the ground and the fact of the petition, the petitioner is not reasonably convinced about the sustainability of the grounds of the petition as presently constituted before his honorable tribunal. And also the NNPP chairman on its own in the state, Sunday Ogini, disclosed that the party which filed the petition against Abiodun before the tribunal over the alleged omission of the party's logo on the ballot papers for the governorship election by INEC was ready to withdraw. Ogun Tribunal dismisses APP and NMPP petitions against Abiodun and APC. The rest of that from the Vanguard newspaper. And let's quickly go through the Punch newspaper before we call it a day on Freshlight this beautiful morning. From the front page of the Punch newspaper, you see on Tinubu's inauguration, military and IG warn troublemakers as court hears anti-handover case. That on page 2 in the Punch newspaper. On pay rise, resident doctors begin warning strike on Wednesday. This is also resurfacing in the front page of the Punch, and page 14 captures that story. United States announces visa ban on Nigerian poll riggers and others. This is also an emphasis in the Punch newspaper, and page 8 carries that very story. Federal government spends 13 trillion naira on subsidy, gets removal guidelines, page 19 as that story. Also on the front page, Shehu Kuti spends night in custody, police plan arraignment. You also get that story in the Punch newspaper. Nollywood stars mom mourn as Murphy Afolabi is buried. That rather sad one from the Metro page of the Punch, and page 12 captures that Metro story. This cheering story also revealing in the front page, Hilda's marathon cooking smashes world record, grabs global attention. You see that on page 3 in the Punch. Gridlock again, commuters groan as Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Page 4 and 5 captures that story. Quickly giving you a couple of stories from the Punch newspaper. You see on Tinubu's inauguration, military and IG warn troublemakers as court hears anti-handover case. The military and the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, on Monday read the Riot Act to individuals and groups opposed to the inauguration of a president-elect Bola Tinubu on May 29. The Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, re-echoed the military warning to dissident groups that any threat to the transition program and by extension to democracy in the country would be crushed. Tinubu's inauguration, military and IG warn troublemakers as court hears anti-handover case. Away from that, we also have Shehu Kuti right here, spends night in custody, police plan arraignment. The Lagos State Police Command on Monday reiterated that Afrobeat musician Shehu Kuti will be taken to court for arraignment for assaulting a policeman on duty in Lagos on Saturday, as captured in a viral video. The police public relations officer in Lagos, Benjamin Ndeye, told the Punch that a musician who turned himself in on Monday was handcuffed and detained would spend the night in custody. Shehu Kuti spent night in custody, police plan arraignments. The Punch newspaper also punches that out. Away from that, we have from the Punch quickly, rainstorm destroys houses and renders Lagos and Ogun families homeless. Rather sad one from the Metro page. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has confirmed that no fewer than 336 families and 228 buildings were affected by wind and rainstorms that wreaked havoc in various communities in Lagos State on May 1 and 15, 2023. The Lagos coordinator, Nema Ibrahim Fariloye, while confirming the development in a statement on Monday, said no casualty or fatality was recorded during the rainstorm. Rainstorm destroys houses, renders Lagos and Ogun families homeless. From the Metro page of the Punch newspaper. From the business page, you see federal government spends 13 trillion naira on subsidy gets removal guidelines. The federal government on Monday said it was developing a comprehensive guide for the incoming administration of Bola Tinubu on how to manage the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. It also insisted that the regime of the outgoing president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, had gone excellently well in the management of fuel subsidy, despite revealing that Nigeria spent over 13 trillion naira subsidizing PMS between 2005 and 2021. And a new government to be headed by President-elect Bola Tinubu is to be inaugurated on May 29, 2023. Federal government spent 13 trillion naira on subsidy set removal guidelines. And also taking my very last story, but not the least, of course, from the sports pages of the Punch newspaper. NFF may not retain Pesero, source revealing. The Punch has learned that the Nigerian Football Federation will not open contract talks with Super Eagles head coach Jose Pesero following the expiration of his one-year contract with the federation on Monday. The NFF announced the appointment of Pesero as the new coach of the Eagles May 15, 2022, replacing Austin Eguavon, who returned to his technical director role at the federation. Eguavo acted in an interim role following the sacking of Franco-German Genetro December 2021 and helped the team reach the round of 16 at the 2021 African Cup of Nations, but failed to qualify for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The rest of that in the sports pages of the Punch newspaper. NFF may not retain Pesero, source revealing that. And that'll be all on Freshlight this beautiful morning, the 16th day in the month of May 2023 on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Thank you so much for staying with us. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. I remain MODUPE AKINYOSOYE. Thank you once again and good morning.